Hello, beautiful soul. I'm Vicki Howie of ChakraBoosters.com, the creator of Chakra Boosters Healing Tattoos. And welcome to this 6th video in a series where we're looking at the shadow qualities of each chakra. And this means we're looking actually at the dark shadow, because there's also light shadow where sometimes we push away the things onto celebrities or onto athletes who are all celebrities now, thinking, oh, I can't do that. So sometimes we put away our white shadow, but that's a different series. In this series, we're looking at the dark shadow, the so-called negative qualities that our caregivers and our culture tried to pull out of us or train us not to be. And they probably did a really good job. And you might say to yourself, well, why would I even want to be a negative quality? Well, you don't really have a choice. As a slice of the divine, you are everything. The good news of that is that you have every single power and energy within you and every single potential, every single one. The bad news is that all those things you were cultured to know as not good are in you as well. The potential is there. And yet another good thing is that when we're aware that all negative potentials are within us, we are so much more compassionate and non-judgmental toward others. Now you might wonder why I have all my Buddhas today. Well, we're at the third eye now, the 6th video, so I decided to bring my Buddhas. I collect laughing Buddhas, which is actually a monk. He's a monk, and I just love the expression. I have him in all different materials. I have over 100, so I wanted to give you a sampling of my buddies here today, and this is my biggest Buddha. My piece de resistance. I didn't make him, but I absolutely adore him. So I hope you enjoy our laughing Buddha background today. Okay, so the thing that I wanted to tell you about the shadow is that we're kind of getting lost along the way sometimes, because we start to get into, it's like going into a cave, right? When you first go in, you have your flashlight and you use your flashlight and you're aware that you can bring lots of light into the cave, but you might think you hear a wolf, or you might think you see a spider, especially a hairy one, ooh, inside of the cave. And you start to forget that you are the light and that you even have a light. It's almost as if the batteries just wear out, right? If you're in there long enough. So what I want to remind you is that all of this shadow work is about bringing back parts of yourself. You are a whole. You are powerful. There is nothing that is not God. All consciousness, everything in existence is the divine. It is this energy, and you are a slice of the divine. So what I want you to remember is to love yourself through this whole process. All shadow work is love and acceptance. It's unconditional love in its highest form, because we aren't just saying, oh, I love you unconditionally. We are actually pulling out the qualities that we have been taught to not love in ourselves and in others, and we are taking those qualities and saying, I love you with those qualities. That's like the gym workout for unconditional love. It's not this spiritual bypassy unconditional love. Are you with me? Okay, so let's come back again to remembering our inner child, our innate value, our divine essence, and let us make this journey into the 5 shadow qualities of the third eye, which is your 6th chakra, your highest divine feminine. Let's make this into a journey of self-love, okay? All right, so we're all on that same page, right? All right, are you ready? Oh, and I almost forgot to tell you that if you've been following me in this series, you already have seen all the integration methods, you know why we do shadow, but if you haven't been following me, go back and watch the previous videos. There's an intro video on using shadow integration to heal your chakras. Watch that one, and definitely watch at least the root chakra video, but I highly recommend that you watch all of them. And in each one, I tend to talk more and more about the integration methods. And today, I'm going to try to keep it just a little bit shorter. So I'm actually going to send you to those other videos for the integration methods. But I am going to remind you that doing shadow work without doing integration methods is sort of like learning to ride a bike by reading a book, right? This is a visceral experience. You want to make it real for yourself. Okay? So we have two agreements that I want you to get in with me here. One is this journey is all about loving yourself. So if shadow turns into judgment of self, then we're not doing the shadow work. We're actually using the shadow work to punish ourselves, okay? So this is not about judgment. This is about unconditional love, right? That's number one. And number two, this is about embodied practice. After you hear me talk to you about these 5 qualities, I want you to spend the rest of the week doing the different integration methods to actually bring these qualities home. Because when you bring these qualities home, you open up your third eye. Okay, we all want to open up our third eye, right? And I know sometimes it seems like, how can doing the negative of a chakra, the negative shadow, open it up? But again, it goes back to you have only so much energy in each chakra. And the divine is all consciousness, does not know good or bad. So every time that you condition yourself to not be even a negative quality, first of all, it becomes dangerous because it goes underneath. Like these shooters that we have in the world right now that go out and kill people in public. They're killing what they believe to be a part of themselves, a certain people, they're doing it for a certain cause. Whatever it is, it's part of them that's been rejected. So the first and most dangerous thing is that it goes underground. The second thing is you just lose power if you're consciously trying to just keep that aspect of yourself down. Before we move on to the 5 shadow qualities of the third eye, let's talk about what the third eye actually is. First of all, it's here in the middle of the brow, between the eyebrows, and it is your highest divine feminine chakra. 2, 4, and 6, sacral, heart, and third eye are feminine, which means they deal with relationships, connectivity, and our inner world more than achievement in the external world. And this is the highest one. So think of this one as the wise crone, the wise older woman, okay? Because the second chakra is the childlike, joyful, young, playful chakra, and the 4th chakra, the heart, is more the mother energy. So you can see it just as we age and move up the chakras, we mature spiritually, but it's all feminine energy. And this chakra is all about having a fair perspective on things and a good perspective, like you're standing on top of a mountain, having incredible insight to everyone, but especially to oneself. Really strong intuition, strong psychic abilities, the ability to close your eyes and see just as much, actually more, with your eyes closed as with your eyes open. That is the third eye. It is all about beauty too. Now, I didn't fit ugly or anything about ugly in here as the shadow, but you could here, because this is the beauty chakra. This is where we appreciate beauty in ourselves and in others and in the world. And that's pretty much the nature of this chakra. The main things are equanimity and fairness and insight and wise perspective and intuitive and psychic abilities. Okay? So now are you ready? Let's look at the 5 shadow qualities that you want to integrate for the third eye. The first shadow quality is unintuitive or not psychic. Now it's funny, I had to use these funny words because unintuitive has different meanings. Actually, it could just be that something isn't easy to do, so it's unintuitive. But I think we don't even have words for this because we don't really honor intuition enough in our culture. We're starting to now, but we've come a long way. For hundreds of years, we haven't really been honoring intuition in English, so I don't think we have a wide array of words for this. So let's just say unintuitive and not psychic, which means that you're not tuning in to what your inner voice is saying. And that might lead you to listen to the rational stuff a little too much, getting too logical about things, right? So if you know you're one who gets intuitive hits and you don't follow them, right? Why not? So this shadow is the part of us that doesn't tap in, because by the way, of course we're all intuitive, but we're also all unintuitive or not psychic when we aren't paying attention, when we're ignoring that voice within. So feel into that, okay? Now, what is the gift of being not intuitive? Well, I just alluded to it a moment ago. The gift of being not intuitive is it causes you to actually be logical, to work in a world of logic. Because just as we can have way too much logic, we can surely have too much intuition. Everything in life is an all kind of situation. So I don't like to say just balancing, but that's the best way to think of it. We're often balancing like intuition and logic. Ultimately, I really believe that our personal feelings in this goddess age should override everything, but it's nice to bring a good arsenal of logic into your world. So the gift of unintuitive or not psychic is that it actually causes you to develop your logic, develop your ability to deal with logic and deal with things in the real world that need logic, which is a way that we often can discuss things with others because they don't have necessarily the same intuition or feelings that we have. So they don't get it when we say, I just feel it. But if we can actually present to them some logical things, and particularly the male side of the species uses logic more, it's just literally a hormonal thing. If we can talk as a man or to a man when needed by using logic, that's a really good skill to have, right? Okay. Now, because we go inward with this chakra, with the third eye, the second shadow quality is superficial, right? When we go in, we're deep, we're being deep. And when we think of the wise elderly woman, some call her the crone, when we think of her intelligence and her heart and her wisdom, we think of depth, feminine depth. So what's the opposite of that? Superficial, right? So again, can we own that? In our culture, there is so much quick. I mean, just take a ride on Instagram for a while, right? And then say that you're not superficial. Simply by being part of this culture, you should be able to own this shadow, right? We all have this quick surface skimming aspect to ourselves right now in this day and age because things are so quickly changing and readily available, and we're putting out images all over on social media. So there's this element of superficiality. And again, what's the gift? Well, usually when I'm describing the quality to you, I give a little hint with the gift. And the gift is expediency. Not everything is meant to be totally deep. Think of a body of water, for instance. A body of water, a diver, a deep sea diver will dive deep down and can go down there and bring back treasures, literal treasures, okay? But then also think about how a bug, these little bugs that go on the water will skim the surface, or how if you throw a rock, you want it to skim the surface. Sometimes we want to just get to the other side. We want that rock to get over to the other side, right? And we want it to skip across the surface. We're not trying to go super deep. Not every single thing in life requires that depth, and we would literally burn out on that depth if we went there all the time. So the gift of superficiality is that we can also meet others there as well too. I want to say this, but the gift is efficiency, expediency, like getting things done efficiently, which means quickly and well, when we don't need that extra depth. And it also allows us to meet other people that maybe don't feel comfortable going deeper. We can meet them where they're at. That's just another little side gift, because I'm sure you can think of many other gifts of your own, right? Okay, are you ready for third eye shadow quality number 3? Numero 3. That's about all the Spanish that I know. It is bias. Because remember, the third eye chakra is all about fairness, equanimity. It's like the highest feminine judge is residing up here in your third eye, and she can see everyone's perspective. So she's very fair from every angle, and she finds the best solutions for everyone. But bias is more, I'm better, I'm in, you're out, you're over there, I'm this group, you're that. And bias is really looked down upon right now. We think everything needs to be politically correct, even though it's not really happening. So a couple, 3 areas that bias really shows up is we have sexism, we have racism, and then we have religious bias. And religious bias often leads to wars. So this is something that I believe if we can make it more conscious, then we can actually open it up more and unpack it. And it won't come underground. It won't turn into war and violence and fighting and hurting others. Okay? So it's really important that we look at bias. And one of the things that helps us in looking at bias is to look at the gift of bias. What could the gift of bias be? Bias says, I'm rooting for the home team. So the gift of bias is it makes you feel safe and included. And this is actually a very important root chakra gift. But if we can recognize it as just being, hey, of course I'm going to be rooting for the home team, doesn't mean the other team is wrong or bad, that's when it all starts to open up. So begin to recognize the gift, why we grab onto bias. Because we can get that same feeling of safety and inclusive and not make the other wrong. Okay? But for now, it's okay to make the other wrong too. Remember, shadow work is all about owning all parts of ourselves. And we have ancestors that had lots of bias, and we have them in us, literally. Some of our thoughts and feelings, our DNA is literally moving some of our decisions. So just be okay with the parts you were taught and the parts you inherited. And maybe, just maybe even from a past life, as a soul you came in with certain bias. Bias could be that maybe you were in a past life hurt, really, you were killed, horribly so, by a certain race, and now you're sort of racist against that race and you don't even know where that's coming from. So bias can even be completely illogical and coming from past life experiences. So why don't we just love ourselves? Because you'll notice when I gave you that instance, the bias came out of fear, right? And so the gift of bias is safety, feeling safe and included. So let's find ways to own that gift in bias. Okay. All right. Are you ready for number 4? Shadow quality for the third eye. Number 4 is overthinking. And this means just being in the mind too much, because the third eye is up here in the mind area. Okay. And yet it is the acknowledgement that our whole body, our entire bodily intelligence, all of the Shakti, as they say, within us, has the greatest intelligence, the greatest knowing. It's literally the intelligence of the divine within us in every single cell, just coming out with intuitive knowledge. And so when we can't listen to that, we tend to get not only overly rational, but then overly thinking, meaning we're doing it too much. Rational is a way of thinking, and then doing it too much is how often we do it. And both of these are shadows, really, of the third eye. So are you thinking all the time, trying to figure everything out? That is the shadow of allowing your body to tell you what the truth is, to just relax into it. I remember when I first realized that I used to overthink things that were out in the future a lot. And one day I said, you know, I really trust, I've seen my body enough that if I'm supposed to do something on a particular day, when I wake up that morning, the alarms will go off. They'll go off. I'll know this is the day that I need to do X, Y, or Z. Why? Because my body, my being is telling me that. In the past, I used to go, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? Do you know what that's like? Right. And I can still get into that. We all can, right? But I am honoring now this trust in my intuition and in my body, in the divinity in every cell that has the perfect timing. And when I get into a place of overthinking a lot, I'm like, why am I doing this? It's only taking me away from this moment now, okay? But still, once again, we have a safety thing here, and we have a, well, let's just look at it. What is the gift of overthinking? What is the gift of overthinking? Well, the gift of overthinking is, once again, going into the possibilities, because overthinking is usually thinking about options. In truth, one could say that when we go with our intuition, there's only one option. The divine is speaking to us and we're following that. But options are fun in this 3D world. They're fun. They're cool. They can overwhelm us, so we need to beware. But they can also be a gift. And as we steer our body, we can literally show our body and the intuition that resides within our body other choices if we're open to lots of options. I do think it can get us into a frenzy, and I'm not saying that you should go there all the time. I'm just saying if you're doing it, you have to acknowledge the gift. You're doing it for a reason, and the gift is it gives you a certain freedom as you feel creatively into all the options. It gives you a certain amount of power and a certain amount of freedom. Freedom and power to feel into all of these options. Feel that? So let's honor overthinking for giving us this feeling of options and reminding us of all the possibilities that we have before us in this 3D world. This is like a fun game for us here. The soul is in oneness when we're not in this 3D reality, but in this 3D reality we have options, right? And with options we get to think about which options we might want. Okay? All right. You ready for the very last one? The fifth shadow quality. And again, there are others. You can come up with others, even mention others that you think of below, but this is the fifth of the main ones that I came up with them. The fifth shadow quality for the third eye is skeptical. Now you probably could see this one coming, right? Because the third eye is the chakra of faith and belief and being able to know magical things. We have intuitive foresight and psychic abilities. So the skeptic is the opposite of that. The skeptic is just closed to all that. The skeptic is saying, I don't think so. You know, I don't think so. The skeptic is keeping both feet on the ground all the time. I don't think so. I don't think so. No, prove it to me. And that's why in this overly rational world, we see a lot of skepticism, don't we? Right? So I think there's plenty out there. So we all must have quite a bit in us because we've been socialized in this culture. Particularly if we consider ourselves open-minded and we're actually psychic, which we all are, but we're actually using it in our work, or we're very aware of it. We're actually using our intuition in our work and we're very aware of it. Then it's important we're aware of the skeptic within us. Remember, because we are the divine and everything is within us. So we're going to have a divided self if we're not really aware and loving to the skeptic self. So what does this skeptic self bring to us? What is the gift of skepticism? The gift of skepticism is feet on the ground, right? Again, there's a certain realist point of view. It's a reality check. And reality checks are never bad, especially if you think you're magical and you're about to jump off of a roof. That's a reality check, right? If your intuition tells you you can fly and you need to jump off of a roof, you need your skeptic self. In fact, your skeptic self is right there saying, ooh, that's a long ways down. I don't think these wings are going to work. So it serves as a reality check. Interestingly enough, this skeptic will also, on a more subtle level, if you are in the healing arts and you are an intuitive and you are a psychic, being really good friends, really loving into the skeptic self within yourself will allow you to deal, well, first of all, you will draw less skeptics outside of you, because that's, again, how projection and shadow magnetism works. When we really love that part of ourselves, we don't need to draw others like that to then show us that we need to love that part of ourselves. So you will draw less skepticism, but that skepticism that you do draw, you will easily be able to talk to those people, because you will have talked and been loving and conversational with your own skeptic. I hope that makes sense. So those are some really big gifts, aren't they, in the third eye? Now, there's also, that's just the beginning, right? There's also all the healing that we want to do, the methods of shadow integration. And I've given you 5 in almost all of the previous videos, so I'm not going to go over them here. We've done number 1 out of the 5. I will tell you that. We did figure out the gifts of each shadow. The gift in each shadow is the first way to integrate a shadow. So this week, really honor the gifts in each of these shadows and find gifts that I didn't mention here, gifts in your life that these shadow qualities are giving you, okay? And then go to my other videos on the shadow qualities, the earlier, especially the root or the intro, and discover the 5 integration methods and do them this week. right? Because we already made a pact that this is going to be about self-love, because we're just loving more of ourselves, all of ourselves, and therefore being able to love everyone else, more of everyone else. And this is also about doing the work. We're not going to make this mental, especially the upper chakras. They can get very energy only or thought only. We need to really do the solid integration methods. Okay, so you made that agreement with me. I'm going to take you on your word and send you off to do that this week. Next week, we're going to do the crown chakra, of course, and we'll finish out this series. Strictly speaking, just so you know, the crown chakra is the all. So there can't really be shadow in the all. But we have beliefs of what the crown is, and I'm going to work with what it's like when we develop qualities around those beliefs. So don't miss that video as well, and I will see you next week. Blessings.